Everyone tells you to buy real estate because it builds wealth. They tell you that it creates passive income and financial freedom. But nobody tells you what happens after you close on your very first deal. Nobody tells you about the lease clauses that you need to understand before your tenant signs, or the landlord laws in your state that you are now legally required to follow. And nobody tells you about the responsibilities that come with owning a property that somebody else lives in. I found out the hard way, not because anything went catastrophically wrong, but because I was not as prepared as I should have been. Today, I'm sharing 5 things that I wish somebody would have told me before I closed on my very first deal. I currently own a duplex in South Carolina. I live in one unit and I rent the other unit out to a tenant. My mortgage payment is $2,000 a month. My rental income is $1,500 a month. So my out-of-pocket housing cost is only $500 a month. On paper, that sounds clean and simple. And in many ways, it is. But getting to that clean and simple reality required a lot of learning. Some of it before I closed, and a lot of it after I closed. What I'm about to share with you is not to scare you away from real estate. Quite the opposite. I genuinely think that real estate is one of the most powerful wealth building tools available. And house hacking in particular is one of the most accessible entry points. But I want you to go in prepared, because a prepared landlord is a protected landlord. And a protected landlord can build with confidence instead of fear. Let's get into the 5 things. Number 1, the moment that you close on an investment property, you are no longer just a homeowner. You are a business owner. That sounds exciting, and it is exciting, but it also means that everything changes about how you need to think and operate. Your rental is a business, the tenant is a customer, and the lease agreement is a legal contract. Your maintenance decisions have financial implications. All communication needs to be documented. And your decisions need to be made with both the short-term and long-term health of the business in mind. Here's what that means practically. You need a separate bank account for your rental income and expenses. You need to track every single dollar that goes in and out of the property. You need to keep track of every maintenance request, every communication that you have with your tenant, and every repair that you make. Not because anything bad is going to happen, but because if something does go wrong, you want to be protected. And because running it like a business from day one is what separates landlords who build wealth and the landlords who get burned. Luke chapter 16 verse 10 says, "If you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones." Start small. Start right. Be faithful with this one unit before you start thinking about the next 10. Number 2. This one is non-negotiable. Know your state's landlord-tenant laws before your tenant moves in. Every state has specific laws governing the relationship between landlords and tenants. And as a landlord, you are legally required to follow them, whether you know about them or not. Ignorance is not a defense. In South Carolina, where my duplex is located, there are specific laws on security deposits. How much can be collected, how it must be stored, and how it must be returned to the tenant when they move out. There are rules around notice periods, such as how much of a notice must be given before you can enter a property. There are rules around habitability, which show you what standards the property must meet. And the very big one is the rules around the eviction process. If you ever need to use it, you must follow it exactly, or you will have to start the whole process over. I spent real time before I closed on this duplex reading over my state's landlord-tenant laws. It was not my most exciting afternoon, but it was necessary. Know the law, follow the law, protect yourself and your tenant. My recommendation: go to your state's official government website and search for the landlord-tenant laws. Read it, take notes on it, and if you have any questions, consult with a local real estate attorney. Because even if you have to pay a couple $100 for just an hour of consultation, that hour could save you thousands of dollars in the future. Number 3, your lease is the most important document in your landlord journey, and most first-time landlords don't take it serious enough. Your lease is not just a formality. It is a legally binding contract that defines the entire relationship between you and your tenant. Every exception, rule, process, and every consequence is in the lease. And anything that's not in the lease is much harder to enforce. Don't just use a generic lease template that you found online without reviewing it carefully. Make sure that it complies with all of your state's laws and that it covers the specific situations that are relevant to your property. Make sure that it addresses everything. Here are a few things that first-time landlords tend to leave out: pet policies, maintenance responsibilities, rental payment methods, and what happens if either party needs to leave the agreement early. A strong lease protects you and it protects your tenants. And having a strong lease means that when questions come up, and they will, you both have a clear document to reference to instead of a he said, she said situation. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 14 says, "Without wise leadership, a nation falls. There is safety in having many advisors." Get advisors, find mentors, get your lease reviewed, because you don't want to cut corners on the document that governs your investment. Number 4, have financial cushion specifically for the property before you close. Don't do this after. Make sure you have it before you sign those papers at the closing table. Here's what most people don't understand about rental properties when they first start buying them. Things break. Sometimes expensive things break, and they're your responsibility to fix, not eventually, promptly, because a habitable property is a legal requirement, not an optional upgrade. I'm talking about your HVAC system going out in August, plumbing issues, or an appliance that fails. These are not rare cases. These are the realities of owning a property and being responsible for someone else's living conditions. Before I closed, I made sure that I had a dedicated property reserve fund, money set aside for the duplex that I do not touch for any other reason. My rule of thumb is to have 3 to 6 months worth of mortgage payments set aside at all times. This helps for vacancy and repairs, because if you have a tenant and their lease ends, they don't want to sign a new one, or you have to evict the tenant, and you have a vacant unit that you're trying to fill, it takes time. You won't get a good tenant just like that, because you want to take your time and do your due diligence during the screening process and find good tenants that will take care of your property and last for a long time. So it takes time. You will be sitting on that vacant unit for a while. So you want to make sure that you're able to afford your mortgage payment without having to take money from your daytime job, if you have one. And every month when you get that rent payment, you want to take out a certain percentage, whatever that is for you. For me, I take out about 3 to 5% because this is a rather new property. You want to take out a certain percentage for maintenance, because things will break. Things need recurring maintenance. Some things need complete repairs. Things break. It happens. So budget for that out of the rental income so you're not coming out of your pocket over and over again. Financial preparation is not just good and faithful stewardship. In landlording, it's a legal and ethical responsibility. Number 5. This is the one that I have never heard anybody talk about. The emotional weight of being a landlord is real. You are responsible for someone's home, and that's not a small thing. Your tenant goes to sleep every night in a space that you own, and you are responsible for maintaining. Their comfort, safety, and stability are directly connected to the decisions that you make as a landlord. That weight hit me in ways that I did not fully anticipate. There were moments in my first month where something came up and I got anxious because I was worried about handling it correctly. Not because anything went wrong, but because I wanted to make sure that I handled it the right way. I care about being a good landlord, and I care about the person living 10 feet away from me. And I think that's a good thing. I don't want to be a landlord that sees a tenant just as a rent check. I want to be a landlord that treats people with dignity and operates with integrity. That's a stewardship mindset. And I believe that it's what God calls us to do when He places any kind of responsibility in our hands. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 says, "Work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord instead of other people." Be the type of landlord that you would want to have. Serve your tenant well, and trust that faithfulness in this responsibility is part of what it means to build wealth with purpose. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. Buying your first rental property is one of the most exciting and rewarding things that you can do for your financial future. I'm living proof of that. A $500 housing cost, equity building every month, and the foundation of a real estate portfolio. It's worth it, but go in prepared. Know that you are now a business owner. Know your state's laws. Take your lease seriously. Build your financial cushion and be ready for the emotional weight of taking care of someone else's home. Preparation is not the opposite of faith. Preparation is faith in action. If you're on the journey to your first investment property and want to follow along with my journey, hit subscribe. I'm documenting everything in real time right here every week, where we talk about faith, finances, and building wealth with purpose.